Hello, welcome pen friends. Welcome to the progress report for October 2023. I just can't believe that we're already mid-month October 2023, but we sure are. And happily, we're starting to have some nice fall weather here in South Texas even, so that sure has made me more peppy and happy all the way around. So the reason why the pens are here, because we already, in Chris's inked pens, I already showed you my 8 inked pens, but then I added 4. So I just wanted to go over the 4 added ones before we hop into my ink journal. I did add the Lamy Safari, and this is light rose, and I had ordered it with a broad nib, but I switched it to a 1.5 for the ink that I put into it. And I did put in Pelikan Edelstein Rose Quartz. So the pen was a gift because it was from an anonymous person who gave me a gift card to Apple Boom, and I ordered it as part of that order. And then the ink sample, the Pelikan Edelstein Rose Quartz, the 2023 Ink of the Year, that was also gifted to me by pen friend CS. So thank you very much. And I just really wanted to play around with this ink. And I had a pen friend who wanted to know, a pen pal and pen friend who wanted to know, how the ink was, whether it was readable. So we'll talk about that. And then this is the little Schaefer school pen, cartridge pen that I picked up some time ago. But I had to work on the nib on this one. So it's not seen the light of day on the channel since I bought it. The nib was, the tines were misaligned. And it was very dirty, so I had to clean it and work on it. If I had to do this over again, I might look longer till I could find some new old stock. But still, it's writing now, so we'll look at that. And then this came about. This is my older Lamy Vista with some of the letters sort of worn off, almost. Just an outline of the LA. I got a super cool Lamy Vista. And what I wanted to do, I wanted to try out my sample of Pelikan Edelstein Smoky Quartz again. I've tried it before, and I don't think I reviewed it. But anyway, look at that water resistance. Because of all the browns that I was using 2 or 3, maybe 3 browns at least. I wanted to see how this looked in a nib. And so that was the reason for this one. And then Impulsivity was the reason for this one. I did a whole review on this. This is, but in case you haven't seen that, this is the little, let's see, I never kept Sip Live, only that's not actually the brand, that's the distributor, I think. People have helped me to understand that. So this is a little brass and wood pocket pen with a cartridge, and it doesn't want to post straight except for when it feels like it. But anyway, there's a whole video on that in case you want to go over and look at that, because we don't want to have a repeat of that. But now let's dive right into the ink journal, and we'll start with the report card because I'm famous for just like getting excited about going over to the library and talking to you at the end, and I always forget the report card, so why not just give the report card, and then we'll look at the individual pages. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, I think, which order it's done in, at least as long as it's included, right? So I'll be right with you. There, and I think I will pull over each pen as we do this because it's a good to review. So the first pen is the Karas Kustom Ink V2 with an extra fine nib, and I put Bungubox Silent Nights, and I do have these ink tiles here too. Might as well, this will be, that way if you haven't seen the other video, that's okay, you've got it here. This is the ink. It turns out to be sort of a really, really dark blue-black. But when I inked it, I was looking for something that was black, but not black. Interesting. So I got it because I ended up getting this. So I gave it an A+. This is just an amazing pen. The engineering alone on it, it's just so marvelous to hold. And then it just writes so smooth. This was a pen friend gift. I'm going to put all the designations. I'm not going to try to slow down and recall because I don't have great recall. I know in this case, but I'll put all the little, where I got the pen and ink samples that I can remember and know of. Phew, let's slow down here. In the description box. So there's just a really big umbrella of thank you because there wouldn't be a lot here if it wasn't for all the over the years, over this past 6 years, the contributions. But I had never tried one from Kara's Kustom, and I am paying attention because this is just amazing. It's not only is it beautiful to look at and tough and well made, but it just writes so good. So it's, you know, even with an extra fine nib, which, well, it could almost pass as a medium nib though. So that was interesting to me too. You know, so far, halfway point in the month, just awesome. Then next up was TWSBI Eco Indigo Blue with a medium nib and Diamine Oxford Blue. And wow, yeah, of course, I could have predicted this. I knew that I was going to love this, but it's an A+, and I pick it up and I just enjoy writing with it so much. Just wonderful. I'm thinking that will probably be inked year-round. And I'm working on kind of an idea of having certain colors that I always want inked as sort of standard. And I can rotate those less often, you know, like every 3 or 4 months. But I want 8 fresh broad nib or stub nib pens for letter writing every month. So I'm thinking about just establishing another little routine there. We'll see. I'll talk more about that later when I make up my mind. But the next one is the TWSBI Eco Jade in broad with Monteverde Olivine, and I've loved this. I mean, look at that, 3 A+ in a row. Monteverde Olivine, wow. It's a sample, and I'm really glad it's a Monteverde ink because generally you can still find those. And because it really bothers me when an ink is either really hard to get or impossible to get or is super expensive. And Monteverde inks are none of those things, so that's wonderful. Okay, and then next was the Jinhao 159 with the silver trim and a broad Jowo nib in it. It actually doesn't match. It's a gold one, but it's one of my favorite nibs. So, and then I put Diamine Cult Pens. It's a collaboration ink. Deep dark orange. And this is just beautiful. I have had heart starts with it. I hate to have to grade it lower, but actually, you know, it doesn't grade quite as low as one other pen later on down the line, but it definitely, it's so awesome when it writes, when it doesn't give me that hard start up, when I don't have to open it up and tease it along. Well, and see what happened there? I don't know if you can see that. But the ink, I'm trying to turn it so you can, but wearing glasses is really... there's this gap there. And the ink is just settled. So in some case, that may be what's going on. Since it's just sitting, you know, okay, there. Now I've moved the ink. Now it's all the way down. Anyway, it's just taken a little bit of a... what am I trying to say? Force feeding? No. Hand feeding the feed, and then it comes back online. But when you're writing a letter, then you have to have a junk piece of paper next to you to make sure it's not just blasting through. So it has been a little bit frustrating. But I think if I could just, you know, be patient and settle down, it's a beautiful pen to write with. And I haven't had that problem very often, so it's kind of odd. Anyway, I gave it a B at the middle of the month here. We'll see what happens long term. And then next is an absolute favorite. It's the Lamy Dark Lilac pen. It's looking almost black. With the Lamy Dark Lilac limited edition ink that I have a sample of. Thanks to a generous pen friend and viewer and collaborator. So I give it an A+, of course. I don't know what happened. Maybe I started to write B because Monkey saw the B up above. I don't know. But it's definitely an A+. It just, there's no hesitations. It's beautiful. Still looks purple in, you know, in real life. Here on the screen, it's probably turning a little bit dark. Definitely an A+. And then next up is the Nemesis Singularity in acrylic, or coral acrylic, with a broad goulet nib and Sailor 50 States, Texas. My absolute favorite brown ink at the moment. But I had to give that a B+ because I've had a few hard starts with it. And that shocked me because I never did with a small stub on it. The 0.8, I never had any hard starts. The same ink and everything. Same feed. It's just, you know. So it did surprise me. But it got bumped up to almost to an A, B plus though, because I don't like that. But then after a couple of those situations, every time I picked it up since, it hasn't done it. So who knows? Maybe it was the weather. I don't know. Blame the weather. Okay, so next up is the Opus 88 Coloro in red with a broad nib on it, and Ferris Wheel Press Algonquin Maple, one of my all-time favorite reds. I just love it. It reminds me of the maple leaves that were the most hard to find when you were on a walk, you know, in the fall in Vermont. The red ones, there aren't as many of them. There are lots more that are orangey, browny, you know, pretty and everything, but the red ones are less common. So anyway, A plus, super combination. I just love the color and the flow of this so much. No surprise there. And then next up was the Opus 88 Omar in broad clear with Birmingham Jack and Jill, which is kind of a brown, kind of a chalky color brown, like the candies in the little Necco round candies we used to get. And I gave it an A. I think that if I loved the color more, though, it would get an A plus, so it probably should have an A plus. But color is part of the picture for me, so when I'm grading, it's very, very subjective and very, very personal to just what I'm what I'm doing here. For me to remember, you know, so that's a lot of ink in there, but I'll bet I'll use it because I can just keep, these don't never dry out for me. And I'll just keep going with it. And, you know, on the longer pen pal letters next month, I'll probably continue with it. So really, really no complaints. Okay, so then the next one, so this is the 9th pen. Let's see, and I just threw that aside. The little Lamy Safari Light Rose with Pelikan Edelstein Rose Quartz, I gave it a B because of the color. It's just too light for me. In letters, and I have to be fair, generally using Tomoe River to paper to judge this, so there's probably more experience and more of a perspectives out there on this, but I find it too light for me, and I'm glad it's a sample for me. And I'm very appreciative to be able to try it because the Pelikan inks are just beautiful, and there's been several of them I've fallen in love with. So, but that was the grade. I gave it a B because there's nothing really wrong with it. And I have a pen friend in the UK that would really love this because she liked the lighter likes the lighter, softer kind of colors that are, you know, artsy colors like that. So it made me think of her. So next up, I'm going to switch because this is a little different. Because I kind of ran out of room and I had to work here. So the next pen is the little Schaefer School pen, and I gave it an A. I said it was kind of small, but it's not for my little hand. It feels so much smaller and really light, and the section is a little bit narrow for me. But it's almost hard for me to think that this was really the pen I used in high school. It may not be, because my memory has the one that I used as flat up above and down below, but still had this sheer blue. I remember it being blue. So there's a whole lot of exploration to do there, but I have to be honest, I've been in a music exploration for the past 2 weeks solid, and when we get to the library, I'll tell you about that. So, but when I probably should have been doing that, you know, exploring more on this to figure out, well, how come I probably didn't get the right pen. But it's still a Schaefer School pen from sometime in the either 60s or 70s. I believe it's the 70s. Anyway, it's reliable now. The tines are straightened and running well, and everything was cleaned up, and I have a bunch of cartridges. So this pen can just go like in my hoodie pocket or my jacket pocket or one of my bags that I carry, totes that I go to the doctor with manual or whatever. That would be cool. You know, trying to wean myself completely off anything that isn't a fountain pen, but that'll probably never happen because I like ballpoint pens and I like certain markers. So, okay, then next up is the, gosh, we're going to spend the whole time on the report card. That's all right. The Lamy Vista, my old one with a broad nib, and the Pelikan Edelstein Smoky Quartz, which I fell in love with this ink. And it always happens to me like I'm late to the party. I don't pay attention when I should have, you know, way back when my pen friend sent the sample, when you could still get it, I think. And I don't think you can anymore, but that's okay. Sort of. Oh, it's so pretty. I gave it an A+. It is an A+. It's darker, so it gives me a lot to think about, to compare with the other. Okay, so right there, that looked really dark. But over here is more real for that Jack and Jill. And then, let's see, all right, kind of, you could tell that the Sailor 50 States Texas is warmer and kind of brighter, more orange in it. But anyway, we'll get to the page where the details are. I keep forgetting, we're going to do that too. And then this one, I gave it a C, which I think is generous. I mean, on the, like right now when I can't get the cap back on straight, which all weekend I've been able to get it on straight. And then I started messing with it right before, and maybe, sometimes I can't even tell if it, anyway, okay. I gave it a C because it writes good. And it's not drying out yet. And so that's pretty good. The cap threading is a major not good. But you can go, I'll put that video on the end of this one in the, like the little, there's a box where you'll have, where you can subscribe or find videos. So let's see. I think now we can just go right into the pages that have the details. I only did a couple of chromatographies, and this was one of them. And you can kind of see, let's see, where is that anyway? Yeah, it doesn't have a ton of, Bungubox Silent Nights doesn't have a ton of ink resistance, I mean water resistance, but it has some. It moved quite a bit up that line, and yet it still left a nice impression. So, and I really like this. Yeah, the pen is just gorgeous and so like well made. After messing with this one, it made me like, why don't I just save my money for one of those Schoen Spock Pocket 6s or whatever, or something, a better pocket pen or something that's that similar size. But that's okay. That's just a lesson. Although this ink passes for black in a nib, it's a very dark blue. Yeah, it definitely is. And you could see that when I used a water brush. That's why I always include my water brush stuff. Even, I did like how this came out though. I just traced the pen so I could have that little symbol there. Okay, and then we don't have to, and then this one I didn't like how it came out. It looks like a demented, like a weird, a melted TWSBI or something, but the TWSBI Eco Indigo Bronze. I love the pen, and the medium nib is working really good, of course. Cooler weather was already coming in. We were getting some rain, and I was able to open the windows a little bit. Now I have the windows open all the time. There's a little preview of what we'll be talking about that got me spurred on back into the music world, which is kind of typical for me when the weather agrees with me. There I am with something else fun too. All summer long with, you know, complaining, and then right when the weather turned good, I got into that. So, yeah, that's all about music, but we're going to talk about that. So anyway, and this just goes without saying, it was a A+ and wonderful. And then the TWSBI Eco Jade with the green. I love this. I really love this. I was surprised because I actually pulled that out thinking, I don't have very many dark greens except maybe a few in the ink vents, which I need to pull those out. They get categorized separately, and sometimes I forget that I have dark inks in the samples from the previous ink vents, Diamine ink vents. I put a note to myself to try Diamine Sherwood Green and compare with this ink. I won a whole bottle of Diamine Sherwood Green, and I like to revisit inks after a long time. I wasn't really into this shade of green years ago, but now I am, so. Okay, it must be I had to skip a page for here, but this is the orange Jinhao 159, and yeah, when the pen is flowing, it's great. I have yet to figure out why it dries, and I'm not, well, it doesn't actually dry, it just, I think we kind of solved it. The ink was just kind of sitting down there. Both of those pens, the Nemesine had that too, I think, just sitting away and sort of And I'm not storing them nib up. I don't like to do that. I don't do that. I store them flat, so I don't understand that. Anyway, I made a note about some of my other favorites. KWZ Monarch. It's not quite as dark as this, but it's beautiful. It kind of almost looks brown. And then Diamine Pumpkin, I love it, but I don't love it for letter writing. I just like it for the bright, cheerful color of it. Okay, so then, oh, here's some of the first of the little Waringal things. And I think I may have shown this already, but I don't think I showed the brown one. This is where you could compare 4 inks, and I've done Lamy Dark Lilac, Lamy Pansy, Lamy, Diamine Pansy, Ackerman 13, Simplicity's Violet, and then Diamine Mombado's Hat, because those are others that I'll want to go ahead, especially this one. I have a little bottle that a pen friend sent that I can kind of compare how it looks in a nib. Maybe next month I'll try the Mombado's Hat. And then I was just writing down all of the ones I like. A+, very beautiful. Okay, and then this one, this is the Nemesine Singularity Coral with the 50 States, Texas, and I love everything about this ink. Terribly tempted to like try to buy some more, but it's too expensive, and it doesn't really make sense because the bottle is so tiny. So I think what I need to do is love the one I'm with. You know, I've got so many. I've probably got maybe 4 or 5 mils left in this one, so I could kind of hoard that for nice days or whatever. It does hit right where I like, and it shades beautifully. That's why I love it. Before I release this video, I'll probably end up on ordering the ink. Oh my goodness. I said I would continue to look for brown that flows and shades. Yeah, I've got several samples of other browns, but I happen to know that none of them really compare because, well, SBRE brown is beautiful. It veers more orange. It's lighter. I mean, it shades beautifully. The horsetail brown and from Pilot, you can't really compare them because, yeah, that's different. That has a lot more red. And then even the J. Urban Lee de Tay is beautiful, but it's not as warm. And I really like that warm, shady brown. Oh, it's just gorgeous. Anyway, talk all day about that. And then here is the Opus 88 Color Oil. Just comes out beautiful, and it lifts nicely with a water brush. It's a perfect combination for anything. Letters, journaling, bullet journaling, everything. Yeah, it's a PIP, favorite pen, ink, paper combo. I love this on this paper, but actually, I love this on CVS Caliber paper. It flows just as, almost as well. Of course, there's nothing quite like Tomoe River paper, but even on the drier CVS Caliber paper, it just performs so well. It kind of lightens it up slightly, but that doesn't matter. There's plenty of flow in that. And then the Opus 88 Omar Clear, really good here. I mean, just looks so pretty. Whoops, I got a little splashback from that. Isn't that amazing? From the Rose Quartz ink. I did a chromatography on this one, and of course, this is the one that had all that. Wait a minute. Oh no, it doesn't have water resistance. Huh. Kind of leaves a little bit of a gray line there, though. That's surprising. Yeah. No, I was thinking of Pelikan Edelstein. That the two of those compare slightly, but this is a lot lighter, and this one has a lot more water resistance. So this is the 8th pen for October, and I've added 3 more. Yeah, so already on the 9th of October, I was already up to my tricks. So the little Lamy Safari, I really like this pen. I'm so glad I purchased it because I can see myself putting like a Vinta Mecopa in it, even though it's a bright magenta. And I don't know. I like the Lamy Safaris, that's all. I'm not sorry. Here is the chromatography. It was very pink and it had a little light blue line. And your splats look quite impressive. But in the nib itself, in the broad nib, I hated it so much that I just switched the nib right away to the 1.5. So that's why it ended up with a low grade. And then I didn't do a ton of writing with the little Schaefer student pen, but I did some. And made that note that I already said. That I wish I would have gotten a new old stock. I may run into the correct pen eventually, though. I don't really spend a whole lot of time looking because I'm really not, I'm not spending as much, and I'm intentionally trying not to accumulate more. But that long term, that's something I'll revisit because it's just not quite the same pen. It's in that same family, but not quite the same. Okay, here's the other brown. So this was the beautiful, this is why I added it, was I wanted to see how it really looked in the nib. And of course it looks dark in a nib, but it still looks brown. I couldn't get it to move around a whole lot to brown up the in-between. So that just kind of shows you how different it is from the Sailor 50 States Texas. Really is nice for the artwork, you know. And I suppose this would be too if you're wanting it not to move as much. But I really like this kind of thing, where you can see the beautiful brown. So I was comparing this one with Birmingham Jack and Jill and Lita Tay from J.R. Bond, but I still need to get them in a nib to really compare them. But you can see that on the surface, those three nibs had a lot, inks have a lot in common. So it's fun. I just like these little cards here because they're fun. This was the Algonquin Maple. Oh gosh, you could see all that sheen and everything. Oh, now that's where I could just sit at the desk all day and not accomplish any actual writing, just playing with inks. But there's something to be said for that. Very therapeutic. And then the little brass pen, I'll let you watch the review on that if you can stand to. Yeah, it's cute all right when it behaves and when it goes on correctly, if it does, which I'm about to clean that out, I think. But I've been trying to just keep on with it because I like how it writes. But I'll just refer you over to that video on that. Oh, yeah, and I checked back in after a few days. And I plan to do a few more check-ins if I keep it inked up. Because it's still writing, not drying out, and so on. So, very interesting. Okay, so shall we retire to the library? That's what happens is I usually do that and forget, but at least you've got the report card to refer back to, and I'll just talk a little bit generally over there. There, so I made it over to the library, which is, I wasn't going to because I'm having an absolutely hideous hair day, but it doesn't matter, except that I can't talk. Just a minute. Oh, my voice was holding so good, but there's a lot flying around in the air. There's a lot of allergens going on. So anyway, I usually try to decide kind of ahead of time, well, or at the midway point especially, which do I think is going to be my favorite pen of the month. And right now at this moment, the one I'm the most entranced with is this one. It's just so beautiful. It's, gosh, and it's the number one, the first pen that I inked up for this month, the Karis Kustom, with an extra fine nib, which is so not like me, but it's becoming more like me that I have such an appreciation for the circumstances when a nib like that works out better. But I've actually used it for letter writing. So that's taught me that, you know, on Tomoe River paper, 52 GSM, but it's taught me that it may not just be the fine line of some of the extra fines, but how smooth it is and how it operates. So it's just so neat looking, you know. How many times do I actually draw the pen in my ink journal? I just don't do that very often. So anyway, I love the pen, and of course I'm loving my broad nibs too, and you know, writing letters with them, and super enjoying that experience too. But so far, and we'll see if it holds through the whole month. That's the one I'm just, you know, intrigued with, and getting to try a brand new brand like that is so fun. But anyway, I promised I would talk about the rabbit hole that I got down, and this part of the video is definitely not going to be for everybody because it's so like weird, I guess, or different than my usual, but well, maybe not, because you know I love to read. And what I'm reading right now is an old book that I can't believe I missed, actually. And it's Tanya Tucker's autobiography, Nickel Dreams. But first, the first one I read was a different one. Because what happened one day, it was raining, and I couldn't, no work outside, and the weather was just starting to change. Like we had about half an hour where we could open the windows. Then it got a little too humid, but still it was like the taste of fall is in the air. We're going to have this cooler weather that I've been wanting for so long. And I've got long sleeves on today. It's beautiful. It's dry, cool, fresh, breezy. The windows are open. Oh my goodness. Okay, so that's really cool. But that day, it wasn't yet. It was just really kind of humid, and we were rained in for the whole day. And I was, Mendel didn't know what to watch. And we sometimes watch something together. It's kind of fun, and we're watching for the mailman, and people are coming and going, and that part of the day where you're just wanting something for entertainment. And I told him, 12 p.m. Oh, okay. I said, well, I saw this documentary about Tanya Tucker, and I know that he likes her music too, because I remember way back when we were first married, he had some of her music. Anyway, and I said, oh, I like her too, very much. I mean, Delta Dawn, I was just a girl. She's actually 65 now, and I'm going to be 60 in December. So we're on Netflix. Let me try to focus here. It just doesn't come naturally to me. We're on Netflix, and I see this documentary. And it was The Return of Tanya Tucker with Brandi Carlile or something like that. And I'm embarrassed now, today, a couple weeks later, to say that I didn't know who Brandi Carlile was, although I believe I had seen at least one of her performances on the Grammys, and I'm surprised I hadn't gone down that rabbit hole already. But it was something about seeing her working with one of my old favorite musicians whom it was the strangest experience for me. Like, I thought, well, why haven't I actually looked to see what Tanya Tucker's more, or Tanya Tucker, I never say her name right. I don't know why. Why hadn't I looked into, is she still making music? What's going on? Because I used to do that from time to time with different artists. I don't generally even like female artists, just a few that I really have liked over the years. It's almost always the country male artists, singers that I like. But there's some exceptions, definitely some notable exceptions, and she was one of them. So I thought, well, that's odd. That's true. I haven't seen anything from her in a long time, although I don't go looking. So anyway, I watched this documentary, and I was sort of like, the first time through it, I was like, well, this is weird, and she just looks so different, and I thought, well, what's going to happen? Are they actually going to make a record or not? And so I'm on my phone checking to see, and sure enough, they did it. They made a record. And then as I was watching, I thought, well, I don't know anything about her. Who is Brandi to be, helping Tanya Tucker with a comeback? Oh my gosh. And so then I did what Chris always does, and I just went and I deep dive, and I found her music and started watching, and was like blown away. Like all the wasted time, that I hadn't been hearing her songs, and hadn't, and then when I found out she had a autobiography written, just published, like I guess it was 2021, but my library had it. And I went and checked it out, and I just read right through it. And I knew I had to have a copy of that, because it's got a lot of the song lyrics in it, which just saves me all this paper. I spend more on computer black ink cartridges than I would on this used copy of her book, which is on its way from thrift books. So I was lucky, and I nabbed a hardcover of that. So I read her memoir, Broken Horses, and I just love to read singer memoirs and biographies, both, and they're different. Like, it's so different when you read their book that they wrote, and if you, like with Elvis, I've done the reading of all the different biographies from different perspectives, and then the best two-part one, Last Train to Memphis and Careless Love, is very well, I think it's objective and written by somebody who is journalistically pursuing the story of Elvis. But that's where it's a lot of fun for me as a used to be and wannabe writer kind of thing to read these things. But yeah, I'm just, you know, I kind of wish there was a more recent one on that Tanya had written, but at the same time, like I was telling myself that what do you call it? Documentary or that kind of serves the purpose, because it does tell, you know, some of those years when she lost her parents and hadn't done any recording. But this was 1997. So it was written quite a long time ago. But anyway, that's a long story to say that I haven't researched the Schaefer pen, because I'm still on a deep dive finding songs. And, you know, we live in a great time for that because of YouTube and being able to stream all this stuff. I mean, just if you are like me and you were living under a rock somewhere, then go and go on YouTube, which you're on now, and look for Brandy with an I, Carlisle, and look for her Right on Time performance at the Grammys. You know, live. Oh my gosh, it just blew me away. I just, oh wow. And there are several others of hers that I really like too. But it was really neat reading her experience growing up and getting into music and the whole thing. Just, you know, if yeah, that we need people like her. And I just was really, really having fun. And I still am. And I was dusting off all of our old CDs and figuring out which ones Manuel had, because yesterday I figured out how to put a song onto my old MP3 player, which still is in great shape. So I didn't have What's Your Mama's Name by Tanya Tucker, so I got that one on there. But yeah, I do this. I can disappear down a rabbit hole. And the music is a little bit safer for me than pens, because, you know, these books are available at the library or used, and you can get all the music on YouTube that, you know, to satisfy your interest in each song and everything like that. But a lot of times with the pens, I might get tempted to purchase. That's what I'm trying to say. So, it was a really, really fun exploration. And now I'm outside a lot more, but I still find myself coming back to that music study, because every time I study music, I end up seeing who they sang with or who they were influenced by. And but I have so much respect for Brandy, because she wrote all these songs. Not only can she play the guitar and you know, like, oh, it's out of this world, you know. And I think to myself, I'm probably missing, you know, just vast array of music out there that I'm missing, because I was always kind of locked into country music. And that's great. And I love it. But some of the old ones, they don't do me any favors mood-wise. And so it's nice when we can find new music, new to us, in whatever genre. And, you know, I love Elvis too, so I'm not just trapped in country music only. But, you know, anyway, wow, this is so off topic. But who knows? One person watching may end up having a fun day going down a music rabbit hole that won't cost you anything. So it was cool being able to find her, Brandy's autobiography at the library like that, and a nice copy of it. I ran right over and got it and read it right through in 2 days, or a day and a half, I think. So, and it was a thick one too. But anyway, now I'm so off topic, I don't even remember what we were talking about, except, yeah, the writing is going well. I have 3 letters in my reply pile right now, so I'm doing pretty good with keeping up, pretty good. With pen pals. I probably haven't been journaling quite as much, but I've been in my little commonplace book writing down all these song titles and making sure I know what I do have on my MP3 player. I like the music kind of old school too, because I like to be able to be offline and anywhere with my tiny little MP3 player and not have to worry, you know, about using either data or whatever. So I've been much more in my commonplace notebook, just scrawling a bunch of notes so I won't forget which songs I wanted to check into next. And because, you know, it feels like I don't know where I've been for a lifetime. But anyway, that was fun. And I hope you're having fun with your pens and inks. Oh, I don't want to look at the screen. My hair is just, it was blown all over the place this morning when I went out with the cats. So I hope we can meet in the comments and talk about what we're writing with and all the different pens and inks and music related topics that you want to talk about. This is a great, you know, community that we have here that we can connect, and you guys let me talk about just about anything, including Elvis, so why not Brandy, right? Oh my gosh. I will see you on the next video. I just saw 40 minutes kind of flash by on my little time thing up there. And I hope the weather and conditions are great wherever you are. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.